Welcome to another Alia Graphic Creator Chat. I'm James. I'm on the committee of Alia Graphic, and I'm a librarian in Melbourne or Naarm. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge that I'm recording this on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation in Victoria. And today I'm going to be joined by Dan from Greenlight Comics, who is joining me from Ghana country over in Adelaide, and I'm joined by Angelo from King's Comics, who's joining me from Gadigal country in Sydney. So I want to welcome you both, and I want to pay my respects to elders of all of those Indigenous nations and peoples, past and present, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that it is stolen land. So, welcome to you both. And do you want to start by telling us a bit about a bit of introduction to yourselves before we get into the stores themselves? A bit about yourself and how you first got interested in comics?
So my name's Dan McGuinness. So at the moment I'm a co-owner of Greenlight Comics, but I'm also a children's book illustrator for Scholastic, which I've been for the last 15 years. And basically I got that job through being into comics and doing my own independent comics and stuff like that. And then a publisher saw my work from Scholastic and went, "Hey, can you do like kids graphic novels?" And I started by doing a series called Pilot and Huxley, which was written and drawn by me, and that went well, and it was published in the US and the UK, and it got optioned for a TV show. And then they never made a TV show. And then and from there I was working at a comic shop, and and then when that comic shop like shut down, it just seemed like the right thing to do was to open my own one with a couple of mates and stuff like that. And yeah, it just went from there. So that's who I am. I'm also I'm the designer for Bad Plane Studios, which is a video game company, and I design video game stuff as well. So yeah, I do a lot of drawing as well. So I suppose I'm a freelance illustrator. You could call me, kind of.
Yeah. And the first interest in comics was
My first interest in comics was the first comic I really got it. So I'm like I'm a fake fan. I haven't been into comics since I was a super small child. I got in mainly my 20s when I first moved into a share house, and the guy that was there was working in a comic shop, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I reckon you'll fully like this comic." And I had read comics, I'd read like the Archie Ninja Turtles when I was growing up and stuff like that, but like not into comics. And he handed me a copy of like Preacher, and I was just like reading this thing going, "Whoa, what is this? This is like some sort of movie that you read." And basically from there I read, because he just had all his graphic novel collection, so I just read heaps of his stuff, and then eventually got a job in his comic shop that he was working at. And then from there I went on, and yeah, the rest is history, kind of thing. Been
Now, I want
going
to
on.
pull you up. Now, I want to pull you up on that because whenever I say to anyone, "Oh, I can't really draw," I get told off. So I'm going to tell you off for calling yourself a fake fan because you're a fan of comics. It doesn't matter when you started. You're a
Yeah,
fan.
that is true. But like I haven't read, superheroes from the 80s or anything like that, the clunky art. I'm not that person. I tried to go back and read Infinity Gauntlet, and I was like, this is the clunkiest dialogue I have ever read in my life. I got
Just not
like,
as smooth. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And we're so spoiled now with comics that I was just like, it's so different now. It's just like, you can't go back. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Angelo, what about you? Tell us a bit about yourself and how you
So
got interested
mine's
in comics.
so mine's like more of a two-in-one question. So I'm Angelo from King's Comics. I was kind of born into comics because my dad first started King's. So we've been around since 1978. He first started selling out of his or my grandparents' house when he was 18, kind of just to make a bit of money for petrol and, bits and pieces to live, and it kind of exploded into the business it is today. So I've kind of been around since I was first born and just kind of been around comic books. I guess my primary interest is more Marvel, but I am moving into some of the independent comics. So when I first started reading, I got really into Ed Brubaker's Captain America. And then I've kind of just spiraled out reading more Marvel, and then obviously going into, say, Image and some of the more independent creators as well, as time has gone on. So I've kind of been immersed around comic books for a long time. I do go in and out, so there'll be like I'm in one of those periods at the moment where I'm not reading a whole lot. I do read bits and pieces just because we get so busy with work. Um, but yeah, like it's that kind of world, I guess.
Now, before we get more into the stores, personally, what have you guys had? How much have you guys had to do with libraries?
Oh, I have a lot to do with libraries. I'm the library guy at my at the shop because it all stemmed out of me being a children's book author and illustrator. So I used to do library talks before that anyway, as you go to libraries as a like part of book week and all stuff like that. And so it just kind of blended into me being in charge of the libraries. And yeah, so I would when I go to get booked in for school talks, I would obviously plug my shop like at these talks, and I'd be doing like 10 a year or something. So I could just go like, I'm talking about the awesomeness of comics and blah 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 and this and that, and how to get into comics and how to draw comics as being a young person and how I did it and my story, and then I have a whole section in my thing near the end talking about where the librarians can get these comics from if they want to like stock them in their thing. And it just kind of worked hand in hand. And then I became like the main contact of the libraries and stuff. So libraries is quite a big part of our business.
And Angelo?
Yeah, so for the past 10 years or so, we kind of took a step back from libraries, just focusing on other parts of the business. So we're kind of ramping it up again in the past maybe a year and a half, starting to get more involved with libraries. So I'm going to be kind of, for the past year, I've been the contact for libraries. Yeah, we've kind of always dealt with libraries. We've had, multiple libraries approach us and bits and pieces around that. Yeah.
So with the stores, you've given us like a bit of history, but can you go a bit more into how the store started, what it was that made you go, oh yes, this is the niche that we're sitting in, and how you identified that and everything. So maybe we'll start with Angelo this time.
I guess on my part, it's a bit hard to kind of identify the need for the store just because it's kind of always been there in my part. I guess my father initially started it as a standing order or a mail order business. He identified that it was kind of like there was a demand for comic books, and it being in the 90s, there was a big rush in the US as well. So he kind of started importing the books to facilitate the market locally. He also dabbled in distribution, so supplying other stores locally around that time. So I guess he kind of saw the demand there, and kind of over time it's developed into what it is. Like again, like any business, ups and downs. Comic books, we got the scare of ebooks and all these other things, but that didn't really affect us. Like
yeah, the Marvel Unlimited and stuff.
yeah, like it
Yeah,
always does. Like there will be some sort of impact, but I think people underestimated, or sorry, overestimated the amount it would. Because people always want that physical thing, the comic book. They want a collectability, and then that gets into, your grading and your other sorts of aspects, I guess, of comic book collecting and reading. So I guess that's kind of where we identified the niche, and then kind of, expanded off that. So, unfortunately, with some of the other stores closing locally, it's kind of helped us, build the business a bit further. And definitely having the variety and being able to import some stock that, maybe some other stores can't, has definitely kind of separated us in the niche.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with our store, yeah, kind of like we wanted to create because we were all of us who own the shop were working at another comic shop at the time, and we saw how it was working. We saw the stuff that wasn't working, and like the boss at that time, like he wasn't receptive to this change. A change that I saw, that people were kind of like, yeah, getting more into graphic novels and the issues and stuff like that. Sure, you had all your standing orders for your comic issues and stuff, but like the majority of people that were walk-ins and that didn't want that kind of stuff. They just wanted like the graphic novels. So I had this like dream to make this like video shop of a comic shop. So like so all of our books are in sections. So we have horror, fantasy, kind of like the video shop ones, and we got superheroes, manga,
I like
and that,
genrefied.
yeah, and I wanted to have it so you could walk in, and I wanted to have as many faces as I could. So I would sacrifice volume of stock to have more faces, and then and try and just keep the best stuff in, kind of thing, along that kind of model, like, you know, all killer, no filler, whatever they call it. And it went really well, and because lots of the people that were coming in, so we weren't targeting like your collectors and stuff like that, or we still offered subscriptions, issue subscriptions, when you became a member, but we wouldn't get every comic in. We would only get number one issues in, and that's all we get. And then from there, if the person likes it, they can subscribe to it after that. So we might, you know, miss out on a couple of sales there, but to tell the truth, like, there's 2 more comic shops like close to us that are all over the collecting and issues side of it, and we wanted to, and they weren't into graphic novels at all, so we really wanted to push the graphic novels, and it brought in a different clientele, if you know what I mean. Like, so we have people that like were into books and they just wanted to read a story and then put it on their shelf, like with a spine, like, because they saw books as trophies, and you know, you want to do that. So that was our thing, and then we wanted to, you know, really. We've always wanted our Pride section, so our Pride section is as big as like any of our other sections. And I'm a massive horror fan, so I wanted like a good horror section and stuff like that, because, you know, and yeah, and the place we worked at before, they were just graphic novels. That was the section. It wasn't even into like, I don't think it was even in publisher or anything like that. But yeah, we decided to not do the publisher thing, because, you know, we wanted new people coming into it and stuff, and like, new people coming in aren't going to understand what a Dark Horse comic is. They're going to say, I want a comic about this and that, and they'll go, oh, fantasy, there you go, horror. And we've got like, you know, biography section, we've got like a young adult section, we've got a kids section, we got, yeah, sci-fi and stuff like that. So yeah, our niche was like really just to push the graphic novels as like a kind of a new exciting way to read, and as like, you know, as like a medium, not as a genre. Right, is that the right way? So yeah, kind of.
Yeah, as a format rather than as a like, not trying to say, oh, graphic novel is the same as something, saying a sci-fi or something like that, but it is its own format within it, the same as. Now, when you say,
and because Adelaide's so small, and as I was saying, the other guys were doing like the traditional one, probably like Angelo's like shop, we had to do something different, kind of thing, and yeah, that was our thing.
Now, for clarity, because some of the people who listen to this aren't as across comics and everything. When you say issues, are you specifically talking about floppies, saddle stitch, single issues, or are you including trades of those going through, or are you counting them towards?
No, so I count when I say graphic novel. Now, this is like, you can go everywhere with this. Like, this is an age-old thing, but I say graphic novel, and it basically just means something with a spine.
Yeah, so perfect bound or hardback or something.
And I know, and then I know you've got your OGNs, your original graphic novels that never were released as issues first, and all that stuff. I call them like, graphic novels, or I call them collections sometimes, because a lot of people that walk into our shop, like, you say trade paperback, and they're just like, oh no, the ones that have all the comics together, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, yeah.
We're the same, definitely.
Yeah, and but yeah, I don't call comic issues. I call them floppies. And if you're listening, you don't know what they are. You know, the floppy ones you get from the newsagent. You know, they'd come out like monthly or weekly. They have a staples down the side. So that's when I say like issue, or I often just call them comics. You know, it's kind of thing. They're all comics, but you have to draw a line somewhere in the sand to get
Yeah.
So your people, your customers know what they want to order and stuff like that.
Yeah. Talking about the library stuff, you both work very closely with libraries to supply comics for collections. What does that look like from your end, and how does it come about? Both generally, what was it that drove you to that, and how is it for individual libraries getting involved?
I was like, with the old shop I used to work in, they dealt with some libraries, and I could just see like the majesty of like these like awesome sales that you could just do, but there wasn't really a system for them kind of thing. And when I opened my shop, I was like, I really want to concentrate on libraries because I already had the, like the I was already dealing with them with doing my school talks and stuff like that. So I thought that'd be a real easy way to bring them in. So we created like kind of like a subscription service to librarians. And we know because like as a librarian, I mean, work with not a librarian, I'm not a librarian, but as working with a lot of librarians, I see that a lot of the time they don't know about comics and they don't know what they want. And so they just want it the easiest way possible to get the stuff that is good. So I created a subscription service where they can just tell us how much they want to spend every month, and then we pick the comics for them. We have like 3 options. That's one of them, and that's just yeah. And then at the end of the month, I send them out an invoice, and they get an opportunity to say yes or no, or for some reason they might not want something. And then as soon as they approve the invoice, I just send the books out. And that's the majority of how our customers work. And then you've got the ones that are the librarians that are into it, and they want to they'll give you a list every week or whatever and stuff like that of stuff they want sent out at the end of the month. And then we have the ones that just like 100% trust me and just go like, send it out. You don't even have to approve it. You've never sent it. That's wrong. And yeah, that system seemed to really work. And we got that out there by when we started up the shop, I joined the CBCA, which is the Children's Book, CBC.
Children's Book Council of Australia.
Yeah. Sorry, just went blank on what that was.
Yeah.
And we joined the shop up as like a gold sponsor, and they give you, being a gold sponsor, you get like a send out. You can like do two. I don't know how many it was, but you can they will send out advertising about you. You give them the ad that you want, and they'll send it out to their networks and stuff like that. And so I did in their networks. My first thing was I was going to put on a free talk night. Dan McGuinness, the author and blah 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 of this and that, is going to do a talk about like graphic novels and how they can fit into your library, why they're good, why they're awesome, and how we can make it really easy for you guys to get them. So, and we'd get like, I'd put on these nights, and we get like 50 librarians rock up, and most of them would sign up as an account, and then not all of them would do standing orders, but like, and from there, and then the other thing I learned is librarians talk to each other. My God, they talk to each other. So most librarians will, so after doing a couple of them, and we got into a whole bunch of them, and especially because we were part of the CBCA, they just started talking to each other. So we would just have libraries contacting us going, hi, I want to get a graphic novel section. I don't know how to do it. This is what we got. What do you recommend? And I would send out like a recommendation list, start from there, tell them about us, how we work and all that, and just go from there. And we haven't had many that haven't done it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's pretty good, and yeah, so because I thought that comics to libraries is something that needs to be done. And like getting comics in libraries helps comic shops, because you got these kids that are familiar with comics, they're growing up, they want more, and they're starting, like, this is like for primary schools and school libraries and stuff like that as well. You got the younger kids that are getting into the comics, and as they grow up, they're going to keep buying them if they know about them. So, getting young, get them addicted, give them a taste, and then make them buy the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said public libraries, school libraries, they're the main 2 that you deal with. Do you have other libraries approach you? Like, do you ever have university libraries going, oh, actually, we want to get stuff for whatever course, so we'll get in touch? Or
we have like different unis and stuff like that. Uni libraries. We also have like I deal with sometimes with teachers that want to do class sets. So high school, they always want to do like a Watchmen class set and stuff like that. So you just, and that's great because then you're just like, oh yeah, 25 copies done.
Yeah.
Super easy. It's one book I have to order, you know what I mean? 25 times, and you're just like, and yeah, you've just got those like, and the standing order of libraries is great because you just know that money is coming every month. That you just go like, you can see how much your standing orders for libraries coming, and they never not pay. They're not like customers that leave you in the lurch and then you're suddenly stuck with all their books. Like they just pay because it's part of they know it's part of their budget. So yeah, and I'll try and also organize more advertising and talks around I think it's around about October or whatever, or I can't remember when like the budgets are going to get renewed, so they can like put that into their budgets and stuff like that. So I put a fair lot of thought into libraries.
Yeah,
because
that's great,
and it really helped us like through COVID and stuff like that. They kept going, like stuff like that. Yeah.
And Angelo?
Yeah, so we started probably with libraries about 10 years ago. So we started going to a lot of the small shows and library talks and stuff like that, and kind of getting I guess our name out there in regards to the librarians. The way it kind of works for us is similar to Dan. We have some people that are very into it, and we have some people that have no idea what they want. We don't have a subscription service or anything like that where we kind of just send out. Most of the time they do want some sort of control of, say, what genre or what age group they're for.
They definitely have that in our one.
Yeah,
well.
okay, perfect.
We set that up first of like, what age group do you want? Like,
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't just send out.
Yeah, a lot of ours are just like pretty particular.
Just send cross to all the primary schools.
Yeah. So they'll be like, we've got, for 10 and under or 12 and under, and kind of what do you have that is suitable? So we generally will generate a report and of kind of maybe the more new releases. So I've just done one for a local library, a local council, but they have about 5 libraries under them. So we generated a report, made our recommendations, and then we'll like, hey, like this is our recommendations. What would you like? So we'll link them to our website, and we'll have like descriptions, and they can actually see the book. And then they'll place an order based off, our recommendations on that list. So that's mostly how we would deal with libraries at the moment. We have actually, on the conversation of before, we do have a couple libraries that do pick up issues or the single comics. Now, I'm not too sure how they deal with them, but it was one of those things where, they might pick up, some of the stories have ended now, but say like Scooby-Doo, and then they'll get Scooby-Doo on a subscription. So for as long as that runs for, they'll be picking up that floppy and bits and pieces like that. But then they would also purchase the trade paperback afterwards. So, if something did end up getting damaged or issue was lost or they couldn't get it, whatever it was, they would still have the graphic novel on the shelf, for the borrowers. So that's mostly how we kind of organize the libraries at the moment. Again, we're trying to kind of push it a bit further at the moment.
You should copy my subscription service. It
definitely sounds really good. It's a good idea.
Because, it is a little bit of work though. Like I do libraries every time I go into work. I have so many library emails and stuff from them and stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Awesome. There are a lot of dedicated services that are suppliers specifically for libraries, and they will get from all sorts of things. What is it that makes it appealing for libraries to work with you as the store and as a specific supplier of comics, rather than some of these more general but very focused on libraries businesses?
I think that the what we offer as well is like, because like you're always fighting with libraries, and especially primary school libraries. You've got your scholastic book clubs and stuff like that, which do graphic novels now. And because I don't really like it, scholastic selling as the book clubs is so cheap. Like for the librarians, they can scholastic. It's basically the supplier selling direct, like, and then over, cutting
One
all
plus one
retailers out.
retailer. Yeah.
Yeah, but so we have, what I really push when I'm talking to librarians is that we have like access to books that Scholastic can't get and stuff like that. And also, I mean, if they still have like a title page, like, they might be able to order through and stuff like that. Stuff like Harper and Random House and stuff like that, where we have like stuff they can't get in Australia because we import from America. So they'll be able to like get graphic novels that are tried and tested from all over the world that they don't have access to. So we try and push that they can get like these really cool books that they can only get through a comic shop, and we can supply them with that. And that's part of like my thing of, like where we can tell you the best books and stuff like that. And
the stuff like the band dessinée and manhwa and stuff like that. Or
yeah,
is it
yeah,
or is
yeah,
that even just the some American ones from indie publishers?
well, there's like Scholastic Graphics, and
Yeah.
they're just Scholastic books that don't get offered to Australia. A lot of them kind of things. I mean, some of them do, but like a lot of them, I'd say 50% of the graphics ones come out locally, and then like there's still like the other 50%. And you've got all these other, and especially with the manga, if the libraries get manga, like we have access to like, like the manhwa stuff, like the Korean uh, comics, sorry, and the webtoons that are getting printed now. They're super duper popular, and they just don't have access to that kind of stuff. And they have kids asking for it because the kids know they exist. And as soon as that, they'll just go like, oh, cool, can we get a subscription to like Solo Leveling and stuff like that? And then they're just set for that. And so yeah, we, with the whole thing of like trying to show libraries that we can offer so much more a curated, and like we love our comics. We've got this passion that we like, a passion worth sharing is basically our shop's motto. So if you don't like comics, you can't work at my shop.
We are very similar to Dan. Like, I guess the biggest thing that separates us from, say, your other publishers or your other suppliers, it comes down to knowledge. Like, having, like, we've got 10, 12 staff. So having 12 people's opinions, being able to make recommendations, one person might read one thing, one person might read the other. Like, you're very well versed across everything. And being kind of like that one-stop shop. So having, a wide range of suppliers and publishers that we stock, then approaching libraries or having libraries purchase from us, they won't have to go to 5 different suppliers to get the books they want. They can come to one and have recommendations and the knowledge kind of back it all to make, the right decision for their library. So I guess that's kind of, where we're a bit different. Again, I agree with the webtoons, like they're going crazy for us at the moment too. So yeah, I think it comes down to variety and knowledge. They're the 2 biggest things for us.
Yeah, I agree.
And I guess the that knowledge includes like the trends. So you're probably able to give libraries advice that's like, oh, I can see that this is going to blow up, so let's get you started on this now. Whereas a lot of the other ones might be going, oh, hang on, yeah, we'll get this in really quickly, and so you've got, rather than having the people asking and then waiting, you've got, by the time lots of people are asking, you're already going, oh, here, look, it may be a couple of days while the cataloging's finished, but here you go, sort of thing.
100%. Like, we're always reading, the different resources, what's hot at the moment, etc., as well as looking at, daily reports of what's been selling really well. So we can then make those recommendations accordingly based off all that data. So definitely helps.
Yeah. And I'm in a really lucky position here because the library I work at is walking distance from All Star Comics, which is
very nice.
One of the big Melbourne ones. So I actually, it's weird. I don't actually have a standing order or anything with them. I wander down on a lunch break, maybe once a month or something, and we'll chat with the staff and everything like that. How much does that happen with yours? Is it pretty much all those standing orders and then you send it out and you'll talk by email, or how much do they come in and are like, let's have a look at what's available, let's go through
Yeah,
the stuff with the staff?
We have a lot, actually probably about half of our libraries do come into the store. They tend to put the time in and make the trip. Normally is around end of financial year, they might have an extra bit of budget. They'll literally just go through all our shelves, grab a whole bunch of stuff, and then kind of we fulfill it and ship it out to them as I require. I know some libraries require it to be sent to like a processing place before they then intake it. So it's something like that. But we do see a lot of them come through the store. You know, they get to chat with the staff, and then we can make those recommendations in person as well.
Yeah, that's golden. Like we also that we do offer that as well. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, a lot of them just come in and they just want to like, and I'll just go around with them and just talk about every single book.
That's why I do it. Like I like to think that I'm pretty across comics and stuff, being on Ali Graphic and a fan of comics and all of this for a long time. But the knowledge that I have compared to the knowledge that the staff at stores and stuff have is just completely different levels. So it's always great for me to go in and chat with the guys at All Stars. And when I was in Adelaide earlier this year, popped into Greenlight and had a chat with Ross about it all. And
yep.
So it was I always try and make sure I'm chatting with the staff to stay up to date as much as anything else. But yeah, the advice that I get at All Star is fantastic. On that, we've got All Star in Melbourne, Kings in Sydney, Greenlight Comics in Adelaide. You're all ones who work very closely with library services. How easy is it for libraries across Australia to find not just an Australian comic book store, but a local comic book store? And what advice would you have for libraries who are looking for something like that?
Google. Just Google like Adelaide comic shop and it will just come up, and or just like libraries, comics and libraries and anything like that. All those algorithms that the SEO, whatever that kind of stuff is like, it's Google. If you can't find one, if like no one's told you, or you could ask your other librarian friends, definitely, because they'll know. But like, I think that's kind of just the easiest way these days. Like, I can't think of, you're not going to watch TV. Like, we're not going to put an ad on there. Well, I've never done that. I put them in cinemas, but not like,
The only one we really kind of do is conventions. So again, Google number one. Do a Google. I'm sure you'll find us all. That's probably the easiest way. Conventions. So we do a lot of Comic Cons and whatever around Australia. So we do a lot of the larger ones. So they're kind of our staple. And then when we do have time or there isn't something on the calendar, we do like doing the local library shows. Where we've had, both at the Comic Cons and the little library shows, both librarians from that council and other councils come all together kind of to see the local creators and who else is kind of there on display. So we'll always have kind of like pamphlets of, our top 10 recommendations across all the genres for that moment. And obviously, again, through our website, all the information's there.
Yeah. And if they are looking, how do they, like you were saying earlier, Dan, there are, the shop owners who aren't necessarily interested in staying up with the times. They're very set in the ways and stuff. How should the librarians work out if a shop that they're thinking of partnering with is going to meet their needs as effectively as possible?
That's a hard one because I don't know how those other people think. I guess they just like, you have to go gut instinct, that kind of thing. But just talking to other librarians, I think that is the best way, because you do a good job and people remember it, kind of thing. You throw a good personality at them, you give them you go above and beyond to try and explain stuff to them, and make it as easy as possible for them as well, because a lot of librarians like that, because they're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. They don't want to have to learn this whole facet of books that they don't know anything about. And they just want to just have someone tell them what the best stuff is, and then they can go from there, and then they can come back to their libraries or that and go like, this is the great stuff because they told us it is. And it's just all about, so I think that asking other librarians, going to those library events and stuff like that, that's probably your best way to do it. If you're a librarian trying to find other ones, I think that's kind of the way. We have a weekly newsletter that we send out to all of our customers. Just basically, this is the new stuff coming out this week and stuff like that. And the libraries get that as well. So we have a bunch of them kind of going off of that. So maybe, yeah, that won't help them finding a new one. But yeah, but
anything to add to that, Angelo? Or
It's pretty much the same. Libraries can contact us through our website. All the information's there. We have a lot of similar things like the newsletters. We're looking at like coming up to October, November, starting like a quarterly newsletter like specific for libraries, where we can make those specific recommendations, I guess, to everyone. I feel like the new release emails that we do as well, like they're awesome, but I feel like there's so much there that they get confused sometimes.
yeah,
So
we actually toned ours down,
yeah,
like because it was just too much. You know what I mean?
it gets a lot. But having maybe something specific and kind of doing it that way where, they can see new releases over a 3-month period or a larger period of time rather than a weekly thing might help to make the decisions on, I guess, a quarterly basis, to purchase a bulk amount.
now, you mentioned before, Angelo, about the cons and things. So, like, I know that you both stores have been involved with cons, both those big ones and some of those smaller ones that work very closely with libraries, such as paper cuts in Dan's case. And I know that I think you guys engaged with Comic Gong, was it, Angelo, this year?
Yeah, so we didn't do it this year. It was probably the last Comic Gong we did was actually maybe 4 or 5 years ago now.
Okay.
Like I said previously, we just took a bit of a step back from a lot of the library events and kind of just focused a bit more on the core after COVID and everything that kind of happened, just to kind of stabilize the business, I guess. So we took a bit of a step back. The most recent one we did was for Inner West Libraries.
Comic Conversation.
Comic Conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the one we most recently did. Again, very small setup. We just kind of had 2 bookshelves with what our recommendations are across multiple genres. But I definitely think it's a good event to get involved with the community and kind of get brand awareness and people into graphic novels. So like people that would normally borrow from a library that, wouldn't necessarily try a graphic novel, but, having an event like that definitely helps to promote the industry.
Yeah, we go to like the we haven't done cons as much since COVID and stuff like that, just because mainly it was just really hard.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like the Paper Cuts Festival is like super good. Like that is so that's made by Owen and Gina. Like they created that whole Paper Cuts Festival, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And like it's crazy the amount of work they have to put into it. I don't think even because like Gina herself is a comic creator. She's got like a publishing deal at the moment that she's doing a
So is Owen.
novel.
And Owen's got his own publishing house, doesn't
he? So he's got he does Amplified Press, which is like for more kind of like smaller run, kind of like local, independently made comic books. And he's like, so he gets them like printed like for other people and stuff like that. So a little bit different from what you used to just photocopy them. They'll be black and white, and you might move into a color cover or something like that. So he does the whole like run for them and stuff like that. It's really, really good. And then from that, yeah, they started Paper Cuts, and they've just gone bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and like to the point where it just takes up so much of their time. And yeah, every year they do like this like market, and it just goes really well. All the talks, it's always I'm always blown away by how well it all works, and people love it. And every time like it's on, like you just see so many more people coming into the fray of local comics, like creators. And then because Owen actually runs our local section at our shop, because running a local section is like every comic is its own distributor you have to deal with, and like because we don't do anything on consignment, we just buy it straight out because consignment's just too hard to deal with. And so he orders in, like he has like a list of everything, and he keeps track of all the invoices and sends them out to the people, and then gets them back. And it's great because I don't have to think about it. And yeah, so put it in, he gets like, he works like 1 day a month doing that or something. And yeah. And the library like the little events, yeah, they always go really good kind of thing. it's just, you take a whole bunch of books. You don't sell anything on the day, but you just like, you take a whole bunch of books and explain, you talk, and it's just more librarians, more and more and more and more. We get to the point now where pretty much nearly all the librarians know who we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe there's so many schools. It's ridiculous how many schools. Like when you get, because you can well, with us, with like the government, you can just ask for a list of librarian contacts, and they just send you a giant email list that you can just send out if you want, kind of thing. Some of them work, some of them like do it, and then we also did like a post out where we hired a company to like send out. There's like a no, not we hired a company. There's a company that sends everything out to libraries, like all their like merchandising kind of stuff, their flyers, and you can just ask, you can pay, and they will send it out to every single library. Like, and we did that for a couple of flyers, advertising, yes, and that worked and stuff like that as well. So I went completely off track there.
No, that's fine. So yeah, for those interested, we did speak about how Paper Cuts works. We did a creator chat with Owen and Gina last year in the lead up to last year's Paper Cuts Festival or Paper Cuts Comics Festival, and so that's, I think we did a YouTube version as well. So that will be in the history of the podcast. The other, I don't know if we probably have done one with about comic conversations as well, but I can't remember. It would have been a bit longer ago. But yeah, have a look through our back catalogue of stuff for those. But yeah, so it's what if libraries are interested in going to these big, small, various types of cons, what should they be on the lookout for at those? Because it's a very different environment to going into a comic book store and all of that. So what's going to make libraries get the most out of those? Do you guys think?
You
I
go,
think
Angela.
it's more just having the conversation with everyone there, like get to know all the local creators, get to know, say, any stores like us that are there, see what we can help out with, and what we can do for the libraries to encourage, graphic novel reading. I think that's really what it comes down to. So, more importantly, because we are, say, with Comic Conversations, we were already in contact with some of their librarians, and say procurement there. It was more about talking to the borrowers to see what they wanted to see in the library, whether they had anything they were like particularly after and that kind of thing, to kind of then aid the library with what our recommendations are. So I think that's, from my point of view, more what the library should focus on. But they do have a rough idea of who's coming around to those events. So it's, I think, yeah, the conversation.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, and yeah, and if library, so, and that's things like Comic Gong and the Comic Conversation, and down here we've just had Dandy Kong, King Kong, King Con, sorry, yeah, Kingston Libraries put on King Con, which is brilliant. So if if a library's looking at trying to put on one of those really tiny cons in the library, what advice do you have for them for that? What's going to attract like you guys to get involved? What do you think is going to make it appealing to people who might then go on to use comics at the library and all of that?
I think having like a whole bunch of like contacting like your local comic shops or bookshops and stuff like that, just to have them like, because it's worth for them to be able to come down and advertise themselves and show it kind of off. Get as many as you can of them. Get a food truck. And yeah, you have to make it kind of worth for us to set up a store. It doesn't sound hard, but it's a bit of work. You have to have an employee. You have to go down there. You have to have organize all the stock. You have to, you want to take down, or if you're selling, you have to organize, your FBOS machine and all that kind of stuff. And it's like the scanners, because we can just scan into a computer. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the best way to do it. Just, yeah, I can't, Angelo, what do you think?
So I definitely agree with all that. I think it comes down to save value out of the show. So no matter what
Mm.
size the show is, whether it's a small or large, it's kind of like keeping, the patrons around for as long as possible. So having talks, having all that kind of stuff to provide value to the borrower. I think that's the best thing. To get us down, very similar, like we're taking a full day out of it. Sometimes it's one or two staff members. So you know, adequate advertising, making sure, you can bring in those people to come and have a browse. And, for us, it does come down to brand awareness. Like we're not making a lot of sales at these things. So unfortunately, yeah, just trying to bring in those foots, and the food
Yeah.
trucks are the best.
Yeah, exactly all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard though because like, a lot of librarians don't have like the budget and the time and the access to organize a massive thing like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Usually to be like library organizations and stuff like that. But yeah,
What was really nice about Comic Conversations is they were able to get Nicola Scott, because she is local, to come down and sign some books and show off some of her stuff. So that was pretty cool. And a lot of the other local creators that are in the scene were also able to make an attendance. So that was,
yeah, the talks, getting as many like creators in, local creators, or even interstate creators come in and stuff like that. That's a great idea. Like I want to hear those talks. You know what I mean? Like if I want to hear those talks, it means everyone wants to, like
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and another thing that I've noticed is the workshops when the creators will not just offer a talk, but like Dean Rankin, whenever he comes to these, he's we've this is going to be really weird if depending on the order that we end up releasing them. But I've recently did a creator chat with Dean about doing workshops at these things. So yeah, like he running that, and the kids like get so enthusiastic, and the parents get enthusiastic too with it.
Dean's awesome. We love
Yeah,
him. Like we've had him for a
Yeah,
couple free comic book days, and
yeah.
yeah, he's just the best.
Yeah,
yeah,
but and
yeah.
yeah,
Same.
so
We've had him as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
He's
yeah, so
awesome.
Dean and we've had workshops. I've been to workshops from people like Squishface Studios and all of that, and that idea of not just talking about them, but that engaging with comic making and all of that as well. Is that something you guys have seen be really effective as well, or how much does that become a um, in for you as well with
For
the
the workshops,
create
is it?
workshops and stuff as
Okay,
well?
yeah, I definitely think workshops work. Like, there is also always going to be that kind of group of people that do want to get into comic creating. I'm sure Dan has a bit more to say about it because he's a bit more involved with that side of things. But I definitely think it is a way to get, new people into the industry, get people reading when they know they can create and, show off their own masterpiece.
Yeah, I think the workshops, like creator workshops and stuff in the libraries, and when the libraries, because you always get the libraries ringing up going, "Oh, do you come and do school talks?" And like, yeah, cool. Um, they that is where you get the most amazing responses because you get to do your talk about comics, and a lot of the time I'm doing a talk to kids, right? Because I do the children's books, but a lot of the time it's at the librarians because there's so many librarians out there that still don't think that comics are reading. And like I have these sections in my talks that are specifically aimed at those librarians, all those people that think, because you get like the people saying like, oh, comics kids aren't really, they're not really like they're just looking at pictures. They're not, their mind's not stimulated. And then I bring out like, oh really? And it's just like, so comics are different. So you've got your panels and you've got the space in between your panels called the gutters. And that's where the magic of comics happens. So every time, your eyes go across from one panel to the other, your brain switches on and starts to create these like micro stories in between every panel of how these two pictures relate to each other to tell a story. And then within the panels, you have you've got your drawings, but you've also got your dialogue, you got your narration panels, and so you're combobulating all that together whilst creating these mini stories in between every single panel. So at no point in reading comics is your mind sitting there idle just looking at pictures. It's like turned on doing these creative, like super creative, like kind of things. And it's like, it's not better than reading or prose. It's just a different way to tell a story which I think is a really awesome way to tell a story that, like, and yeah, that people just don't know about. And I say that in a better way, obviously. I have, pictures behind me. I have like a example of like, here's a panel here and here's a panel here. And as you glance across, you're like, you create the story of how this character got to that character. And so yeah, those are really good opportunities to like convince not convince, but to show librarians that this is like a medium. It's not just like a genre of reading. It's its own thing. Like it's awesome. Like comics are rad. Like you don't understand unless you read them, and you have to read the good ones though, and we can tell you what the good ones are. Because like any like you can't just say that all books are great, like all prose. There are the ones you need us to tell you what the awesome stuff is, because we've read it all.
Getting back to libraries, what advice do you have for library workers who are interested in developing and maintaining a good comic and graphic novel collection in their library? What is the really important thing for them to be thinking about when they're doing this?
I think for us in particular, I think the best thing to do is have a good idea of the demographic you want to hit with these graphic novels, and if it is a range, have a different budget for those ranges. Because when it comes to us, it's a lot easier for us to make recommendations. For us, age groups tends to be the best recommendation because we can give you a variety of genres across that one age group. But separate budgets do tend to help, because then we can accurately give you, I guess, a variety across the age groups and all that kind of stuff. I think that's the best thing. Get in contact with us, and then we can make recommendations accordingly.
Yeah, and also asking your kids or whoever what they want, because like a lot of the time, I see it with like so many different libraries. There are libraries who just for some reason all their kids. This is like I'm talking about school libraries here. Like they all just want to read manga, but then like manga doesn't work well in another library, or superheroes don't go well in some libraries, but then they go really well in other libraries. So you ask, it's strange because like I guess it's also might be how the libraries present the books, because I'm always like faces. Put as many faces as you can. No kid's going to borrow a spine that's like this thin, on a shelf that like, if you don't know it. So, but they probably know that anyway. But yeah, have a graphic novel section and have it sectioned into sections. Like have superhero graphic novels and maybe just kids and adults kind of thing at the start. Because
we generally try and suggest that libraries, as Ali Graphic, we generally try and suggest that you go junior, young adult. So which is roughly primary school, high school adult, roughly, I think is what we're saying. So yeah, and we suggest dividing it up that way.
I suggest also having a manga section.
Yeah. Yeah,
and if you can, dividing that up into like, like sections.
And then your kids friendly.
Yeah, because that's the thing. A lot of librarians think that all comics are for kids, and they definitely are not. And that is manga is the hardest one,
because there are different restrictions in Japan to Australia, America, and stuff. Often there are little, exactly what tips something into a new rating can be a bit different. So it can say, oh, we're at this level, and oh, we're getting edgy, but we're still staying at this level in Japan, and when in Australia they're going, oh no, this is now tipped to this is definitely in a different.
Ratings are done mostly in America, kind of thing. So, and they're usually they're more null about ratings than us. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
a bit more chill. That's for sure.
Like, their R-rated movies are M here, like kind of thing. But it's just the problem. And this isn't a problem with comics, but one of the I suppose the hard things a librarian's going to deal with are parents that can like get a comic, open it up, and instantly see something they don't like. Where if you've got a prose novel, you have to read the whole book to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like you have to know what's that, even or you have to read a couple of pages, which isn't and it's instant with a comic. You can open up and find
for them, and it's easier to present it out of context as well.
Yes, but also as well, like at the moment, so with libraries and that, I deal with a lot of like religious schools and stuff like that, and they have like all different rules. Some of them are pretty gnarly, if you know what I mean. Like, as in, like, what they won't have at the moment, there's a lot of schools that just won't have anything to do with witches. No, witches are satanic. And like, but they're not. Like, especially like, hedge witches and stuff like that. And, like just taking the idea of witches as being bad. I'm like, they're just people who use nature for like to change things and spells still. And yeah, but like it's to the point where sometimes like, there's scholastic books that are perfectly fine for all ages, but they might have a witch in it and they're like, no, can't have it. We'll have a parent complain and stuff like that. So there's that kind of stuff that you really want to tell your comic shop that up front, how null level your religious stuff is, and if you've had any problems. Okay. But the banned books and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, if you are a librarian, you do want to deal with like comics and comic shops, make sure you tell the person you're dealing with like what you want. Because that's in a scholastic catalog and it's still not allowed. That's crazy, hey. But make sure you always work like you want to work out what age group you want. Like you're saying, Angelo, that's a massive one. Age group, and then like what the kids are asking for, what they are reading, what kind of, are they all about, what TV shows do they talk about the most? Do they talk about the Marvel movies, or do they talk about like, other shows or cartoons, certain cartoons, like if the kids, if they know the kids are into that kind of thing, or, they might have like kids always asking for manhwa and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
One of the things that absolutely floored me was when I said to someone, "Oh, so you're talking about comics and we're not sure about manga and all that." And I was like, "Oh, do you have anime in your in the stuff? How's that doing?" And they were like, "I don't see what that has to do with it." I'm like, surely you see that there's if anime is doing well, manga's probably going to do well as well. But yeah, it was just a really weird disconnect there. So
yeah. And it's always, and a lot of the time, like if there is a cartoon or a show that the kids are all banging on about, there is probably a graphic novel for it most of the time. Yeah, so you can say like, if you want them to like, do they like Minecraft? There are Minecraft comics that actually have a weird storyline. Like, that you can like, if the kids always talk about Minecraft, you can get them reading by like them loving
reading something that's so similar. Yeah.
Which isn't playing the game. It's just like, and it's got dialogue, it's got story, it's got all those like micro stories in between every panel and stuff like that. So they'll just be buzzing with like creativity.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a huge uptick in manga, and I think it's a bit deceptive because sometimes the art is so cutesy and inviting and kid friendly, but then obviously it's so mature, and like that's where
it's actually really hard to find kids manga series. Have you noticed? And they don't stay in print enough because like kids don't buy manga as much. You know what I mean? Like, so you got like your Yotsubas and you got like, it ends up, you can't even like Dragon Ball, you can't even give the kids these days. Like, there's like, especially Dragon Ball, there's some really like things in there. And we know that. So we can tell you that. That's the beauty of us comic shop guys. Like, the kids might be asking for My Hero Academia in primary schools, but don't give it to them. It's not for kids. There are some shocking, horrible things that happen in that series later down the track that you're just like, man, that is adult themed. Like, and it's weird that all the kids, like, all the kids in the world wanted to read Demon Slayer. And I'm like, it's not for kids.
The amount of times at a show, like a convention, like even like the Comic Con we just most recently went to, the amount of times we get parents coming up and they're like, "Oh, is this suitable for my kid?" And this kid is clearly like around 10, maybe just under 10, and they want to read Demon Slayer or something like that. It's like, no, definitely not.
And they're there, the kid's there, and you can see the worry in his face of what you're going to say.
Like hoping you say yes,
man.
Like, no.
Sorry, man. Like, you can't read this yet.
Well, Walking Dead, back in the day, Walking Dead, like when it was still going on, the amount of kids that would bring up Walking Dead, I want to read Walking Dead. It's like, no.
I used to get customers, like the parents would come in and go, "Oh, I'm getting Walking Dead for my kid," and the kid's there, and I'm like, "You realize this isn't very appropriate? Like, I don't think you should get this for them. And they're like, oh, it's fine. He's seen work. He watches Breaking Bad. And I'm like, he's 10.
So the other side of that is from that work with libraries that you do, what advice would you have for comic creators who want to get their books into libraries?
It's not that much different from just creating it. Like, I mean, you can always, if you want to, if you really want to get an easier way, you can always apply for a barcode, an ISBN, and stuff like that. That always helps out with libraries and stuff like. And then you get registered on the state library,
legal deposit, and it goes
yeah,
into
yeah. So that's always going to help. Apart from that, it's hard. We have a bunch of libraries that always want the locals stuff if it's age appropriate or whatever. We have a section as well where we, if any local creators make a comic, we put it into this box, and we've got in contact with the guy from the state library who is supposed to, catalog all the local comics and stuff like that. And he says like most of the people don't ever send them to him, so he's like, he just comes in and grabs them all. So do that, Angelo. Get in contact with that guy and say like, if you want, I'll put aside every one, and you can come in and get them. Like,
Wow.
and they buy them. Like,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of local creators contact us more recently, like for us to stock their products and obviously in turn get it into libraries and kind of stuff. But unfortunately, we've had to kind of like put almost a cap on it because we're limited on shelf space and, that kind of stuff in our store. So we have a bit of a criteria, but I'm not too sure. Like with a lot of the local creators, are you maybe more of a question for James, like can they approach you directly and put them into libraries, or do they have to go through a retailer or like almost like a supplier like us for us to then push it towards you guys?
Yeah, so it'll depend on the library. Like there are libraries that will accept, like the local creator will take it, but often as you were saying earlier, like libraries they've outsourced the processing of the books, so often they just literally can't. It's not that they won't, it's that they can't take them direct because it needs to go through these other steps before it gets to the library, and that can be really difficult for independent creators to do and all of that. But yeah, so it's like one of the things is we say like if you can get a barcode on it, like get it registered, get it through that legal deposit system, get it, because the other thing is if you got a barcode on it and it goes into the library, you're actually going to see you've got the lending rights and compensation for that. So creators, if you haven't done that and it's sitting in libraries and it's getting borrowed, there isn't we're matching it to this and it's going, and you're going to get royalties or however that's
you should do that
exactly worked out. Yeah,
you should definitely do that because I get lending rights. And it's not little money. It's tens of thousands a year I get from lending rights from my book. So like, and that if you don't know what lending rights are, it's basically every time your book gets borrowed, the government pays you some money. It's a small amount of money.
From public libraries and public school libraries. I don't know that because not every librry. No, there's
PLR and ELR now. There's educational. Okay, yeah. So you get both. So you get two checks.
Yeah.
You get two checks every year, and it's great.
Yeah.
And it stays forever. So as long as those books are borrowing. So, but you have to apply every book. You have to make sure that you go to you're registered for lending rights. And when you get a book, you go in and you fill in the ISBN and that. But that is definitely something you can do as a local creator. And then the best way to get it into libraries, I think, is just to go to your local comic shop that supplies a local section and say, this is like, this is perfect age group for libraries and stuff like that. So if local creators come in and say that, I'm like, cool. I'll take, I have this many primary school libraries. Give me this many for your first one, and I'll pop it in each one, and they just get it without even like asking. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess that's the best way. Go to your local comic shop and make them do it. Support
because if that's the thing, if the local comic book shop's already sending stuff to the libraries, adding to that is not the hardest thing, and that's likely to be where the libraries are going to find out about local stuff.
Yeah, and you can if you're a librarian and you want local stuff and you're dealing with comic shops, definitely ask them. Say, do you deal with local stuff? I would love, age appropriate local stuff to support the local creators. It's a hard gig, man. It's heaps hard now. Like, well, being a creative in this, since COVID and since that is a lot harder. It's a lot harder for me to do school talks and say, being a creator is a possible career choice, because I don't do as many talks now because I don't think it is quite as easy anymore. Like, they don't take any risks, the publishers and stuff like that. They only want bangers. They only want a book that has a sports celebrity's name on it or something like that. You know what I mean? And so there are so many opportunities where I've been like putting, I've written a new story, written and drawn. My agent shown it to a publisher. They're like, awesome. Yep, that's rad. Let's start doing it. Let's change this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And it gets to a certain point. It gets to acquisitions, and acquisitions goes, no. And it's just based on the fact that they just don't. They only want bangers at the moment. You know what I mean? They only want these, like, they don't want to take any risks and find the new like person. So it's kind of disheartening at the moment. The book industry, it's quite hard. I know it's not what you really want to hear and talk about, but as someone of that, and I'm lucky because I'm on a series. I illustrate for Ando, so like I've got like that meal ticket of like his books. Keep making books and you know what I mean. I'm up to like volume 18 at the moment, and of just a series I'm doing at the moment, and but as I said, it's a celebrity name that's like the book's attached to. So yeah, it's hard. It's a real hard creator thing at the moment. I've been like, ever since I was like 20 something, I've basically been living off being creative. And I count the comic shop as that. Like, I created the comic shop, I did all the branding and the drawings and all stuff like that. But also I do my books and a whole bunch and video games and stuff like that. So it's being a creative is a harder life, especially when you have families and stuff like that. But you can do it. Like Dean does it, and there are other people. You can do it. It's just don't expect it to just go gangbusters and that. And then but these days, like on the other hand, you got the other swing of the pendulum. You've got your web comics and stuff where anyone can make them, and you can get a great following if you know how to use Instagram and all that kind of thing. You get your following as your artist, and you make your web comic, and if it's popular, and then like these publishers will see that your web comics, you're getting 1 million views like a week. Yeah. Oh, it's a no-brainer that it's going to be, it's going to be a good story, and they're going to sell it. So a lot of web comics come through publishers now, not just your Korean stuff, but there are like webtoons and all that kind of stuff are being printed now, and they're making money off of them. And and people can read them for free online, but they don't care. They just come in and buy them because they want to own them, because it's like a trophy, and it's part of their personality, and they want to push that out to the world. So digital media is never going to kill book media. Did you see Andrew, that Chip Zdarsky like fake flyery thing he bought out recently, and it had that like question. It was like a magazine, a fake magazine, and it had one of the story titles on the front was something like, it was like, is the comic industry like shutting down? We talk about, like, we answered the 40-year-old question. Like the people have just been like asked for 40 years. People are going, the comic industry is dying. I'm like, you've been saying it for 40 years. Like, it's not.
Here to stay, that's for sure.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, there's always that.
Digital media is going to kill print media in the same way that photography killed painting.
Yeah,
they're going to exist side by side. It's fine. So, did you have anything to add to that, Angelo? Or
nah, that was very well explained.
Sorry. I can't even remember what the question was. It
was about getting your comics into libraries. So, thank you for joining us. We've gone quite long this time, but which is great. So yes, thank you for giving all that time. We always ask this question. What are three comics or graphic novels that you have enjoyed recently and that you'd encourage others to check out? Usually, when we got guests, multiple guests, we say, "Oh, maybe three between you." But you both run comic book stores. I figure you can manage three each.
And we will
Uh,
have vastly different answers here.
yeah, yeah.
You go
So,
first, Angelo. We'll do one for one.
yeah.
Oh, one for one. Okay, so at the moment, I'm probably really enjoying Ultimate Spider-Man, from Marvel. Now, again, this is obviously a grown-up Spider-Man that hasn't got his powers yet and kind of discovered them or gets given them. So I guess that's the way the industry is kind of focused at the moment is the demographic tends to be very older. So I feel like at least that all that demographic has grown up with this Spider-Man, and now that they're finally at that 40 age and they can potentially get the powers as well, everyone's like loving this story. And so am I. But it's definitely a different take and it's awesome. Like it's
You
really
and everyone in the world.
yeah.
No one got enough number ones of that, eh? Did
No.
you?
Yeah, we got a lot.
Oh, you got enough? Like
We still
they
sold out, and then since again sold out of the second printing and everything after that.
yeah,
Like,
we
it's
got
just going
we got
great.
shortchanged because we're not big enough. They didn't send us all of them. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't. So my one is basically I'm just obsessed at the moment with anything that James Tynion IV is writing, horror wise. So one of his best, all my books are actually James Tynion books now that I think about it. So one of my favorite books is A Nice House on the Lake, um, which is a kind of a horror thing, which I cannot even speak about because the whole point of it is that you're trying to work out what's going on. But the very start of it is like a girl talks to a guy in a bar, like, just meets this rando dude, and they get along, and he's like, "Oh, you should come up to like my like lake house over this weekend." And like she usually wouldn't do it, but like they have a really good conversation and she goes. And when she gets there, she realizes like all the people at this absolutely stunning, beautiful lake house, which is so nice, it's ridiculous, have all grown up together, all the people, and they've known each other since like high school. And she's the only one in the group that isn't part of this group. And they're like, what's she doing here? And why isn't this other person here? What she's been replaced. She's replaced one of their like close friends, and they're like, where's the other guy? And then it goes from there. And then something happens, which is sci-fi and horror that I can't really talk about because it's so good. It's like a full character piece. James Tynion is bonkers good at writing. This dude has been around forever. No one really noticed he was there. Like they did a little bit, and but he's in every genre now. Like he does like young readers. He does YA, a book called Wind. He does Pride books. He does superheroes like the Joker War. Is it Joker War? Yeah, yeah, and stuff like that. And then he does horror, and he shines in horror.
Yeah.
Like this is everyone's. Yeah, yeah. That's my first one.
I'm probably only gonna have two because I'm not reading a lot at the moment, but Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion as
That was
well.
one of mine.
So that's my second one. Basically it's just like all the children are going missing in a town, and there's like one mysterious girl comes out and can save them all, and her name's Erica, and that's kind of like the
It's like
general premise.
seedy. It's
Yeah.
like organizations and like what makes that it's very like Tinian's thing is the monsters. What makes it cool is like they're made from the fears of children,
Yeah.
and I'm like kind of, and that leads into my next one, which is James Tinian, which is the Department of Truth, which he
Ah,
he did, which is a book based. The quick way to say it is like in this world, which is our world, but reality is determined by popular belief. So the more people that believe something, the more it manifests like proof in reality, or it just becomes real. And the Department of Truth is the department in America that has to maintain the American dream. So like, as in, yeah, and how they do it is really ingenious. So like, and then so the Department of Truth has been going for years, and then when conspiracy theories came in, that became and the internet, that became their biggest enemy, because the more people that believe a conspiracy theory, the more real it becomes. And then like if too many and and what makes this book really good is like every conspiracy theory they talk about in it is a real conspiracy theory in our world. So it really starts to blur the lines between like what's like fiction and non-fiction. And then you get stuff like later on when the government realizes like back in the past, they're like, there's like, you know, the race to the moon, and they realize that like if we just say to people that we've been to the moon, we have been to the moon, because it becomes reality. And then so like the fake moon landing becomes the real moon landing and stuff like that. And it's just like, but because there was a fake moon landing, because they knew that if they did that and enough people believed it, they would get there. And then all the people, they don't remember it. It just becomes reality. And then you're like, what else has been changed in history? And it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, and then you got the art. It's just like, mwah, beautiful. It's kind of like, I can't remember the dude's name, but it's very painted look. And like, as reality starts to like merge away from, you know, become more dislodged, like the art becomes looser and stuff and pulls itself back. And it's just, oh, I'm only going to do two as
I
well.
haven't read it yet, actually, but I've flicked through it a couple of times because obviously they're up to so many different issues at the moment. But it looks
So those are some absolutely fantastic recommendations there. Was that that was your recommendations each, or
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
I could keep going like this all day, but I'm not. Yeah. My other one is like quick one is manga at the moment. I'm really loving Kaiju #8 as I'm a battle manga guy. I like the battles, I like them, you know, the indulgent battle mangas that are just simple and fun. And that one ticks all my boxes. It's got really good art, and like Ultimate Spider-Man, it has like a non-young protagonist. So it's got like this 30-something-year-old dude as the main protagonist instead of like a child that's got a demon in it or something, you know what I mean? And it just speaks to me really well. And it has all the manga tropes, and it hits them so on point and so good. It has so many good page turns, you know, like the page turn of the reveal of like just a line of a character saying it to the camera, like with like so much intent and shit. And you're like, oh, that's the best. And like, whole heap of that. But yeah, that's my third one.
Cool.
I'll be quiet now.
So, and you didn't have a third one, Angelo, or?
He does.
That's it for me. I could probably recommend, like,
recommend.
Transformers is apparently amazing.
Yeah,
just
man.
like, I swear it's probably like your normal like Transformers story, but like the Decepticons, your Autobots, the Earth is gone kind of vibe. But that's on my reading list still to go, and that's probably it for me now.
Yeah. So it's been great to chat with you both. Before we finish up, what is the best way for people listening, watching, however they're accessing this, to find out more about you and about your stores? So Angelo first this time.
So we're just we've got our full online website. So we've got both the store and our warehouse. So all the inventory is online. So it's kingscomics.com. Same on Instagram and Facebook. So it's just at Kings Comics.
And if you're in Sydney, drop in on you and keep an eye out for your conventions too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we do all the conventions. So the most recent one we're going to do is probably going to be PAX in 3 weeks' time. So the gaming show.
Oh, I'm going to PAX. I might see you there.
Oh, perfect.
I'm a punter though. Just a punter this time.
Yeah, so we've got our booth there. So we've actually doubled our space at that one. So we've got a block of 12 or like 108 square meters. So that's going to be...
Whoa. Yeah.
So we're going to have that there. So yeah, definitely drop by, say hi. And otherwise, our store's 283 Clarence Street, Sydney. So we're in the CBD. So
you can find us at Greenlight Comics. We have greenlightcomics.com, the website kind of thing. Look that up. We also, if you want to email us, I suppose we have read at Greenlight Comics, which is like read a book, READ. What's our phone number? 8231 1150. Yeah, that's probably all. Yeah, I can say about that. Our address is, we've just moved. I'm going to say the correct address is Shop 4 Park Arcade in Gawler Place in Adelaide, South Australia. And yeah, if you want to contact us, if you're a librarian, you're sitting there going like, oh, I want some comics, contact one of us if you're in our state. We don't deal with many interstate libraries, do you, Angela?
No, we don't actually. They're all local.
Yeah, I think it'd be too much logistics. Like,
yeah, I think it's possible, but I think it's just also like what we are talking about before with people and librarians wanting to actually come into the store too and kind of having that connection with staff and the recommendations and whatever. I think that's kind of where it stems as well. And then building the relationship to do the smaller shows and whatever else.
They need to smell the books.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to smell a book because comics smell different from like they got the printing.
Yeah.
But,
Different
yeah,
printing process. So yeah, of course they're going to smell different.
I think that's all the details. Yeah.
Well, if not, we can chuck anything that you realize you've missed. We can potentially chuck that in show notes and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for joining us. If you want to contact Alia Graphic, you can get in touch with us at aliagraphicinfo@gmail.com, and you can go to our website graphic.alia.org.au. And you can see all of the stuff. That's where you can look at back episodes of the podcast, and we've also got our socials: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think at the moment, if that's not right, you can find the details for the correct ones on our website, and our YouTube, where you'll be able to find video versions of all the podcasts where I didn't mess up the video recording. So yeah, thank you for listening, and look forward to catching you in the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.